Hello, welcome back to Snugglewood, young Dreamlynx. My name is Edin. Snuggle down into your coziest quilt and let tonight's calming tale and soothing sounds relieve you of any worries and guide you towards a deep, restful night's sleep under these beautiful stars above. And so our story begins in a place called Hearthstone Hamlet and the sleepy giant tale of stargazing. The mellow hum of Hearthstone Hamlet settled under a velvet sky speckled with soft gleams of starlight. This was a place where whispers of the earth met the deep resonance of tradition, where tall spires of ancient trees wrapped themselves around the village like protective arms, and lanterns glimmered warmly upon the cobblestone paths. Yet, what set Hearthstone Hamlet apart was not merely its timeless charm. It was the presence of the giants, who, once every moon, would gather from their scattered homes across the land for a quiet and sacred ritual: stargazing. Tonight, the air carried an extra measure of serenity as thick clouds drifted endlessly aside, revealing the night's treasures fully. Hearthstone Hamlet lay cradled in a wide clearing atop gentle hills, a perfect perch for a night of celestial storytelling. Against the kind calm of a twilight breeze, the giants began to arrive. They came striding from the dim outlines of the forest, moving with reverence, their weighty footsteps harmonizing with the living pulse of the land. Each one carried something unique: a woven blanket as enormous as the meadow, a brass telescope as old as the stars themselves, or a simple carved lantern that threw long amber beams across the hamlet's clearing. Above, the great cosmos seemed to deepen in beauty as the giants reached the stargazing grounds. A wide circle softly carpeted by moss and dotted with wildflowers that shone in moonlight. Here, the smells of earth and fresh pine mingled with the smallest trace of honey from the golden glow nectar trees. The ground, warm and pliant like a beautiful hearth, invited each giant to settle in and prepare for the storytelling beneath the endless sprawl of constellations. Hearthstone Hamlet was vibrant with textures and sounds designed to calm. The rhythmic rustling of trees and the thoughtful conversations of nearby streams added their own delicate notes to the melody of the night. One by one, the giants eased themselves into comfortable positions, some reclining on their blankets, others tracing their fingers along grooves of smooth stones they had brought, as if grounding themselves to both present earth and distant sky. Above, the constellations began their slow dance, and among them the first bright arc of a meteor streaked, as if heralding the stories about to unfold. The giants adored stories. They did not always speak about them aloud, but instead wove them in the fabric of the present, letting shared memory and subtle gestures carry them forward. Some turned their eyes skyward, reflecting the boundless amazement in their gaze, while others closed their eyes to imagine the stories flowing, as if one with the pulse of the universe. The air felt heavy, not with pressure, but with the generous capture of time. Everything slowed to the wonder of the night. One story floated into being, as timeless and natural as the wind, of celestial rivers winding through solar seas, of starborn creatures who left glistening trails in their wake. Another imagined the beginnings of constellations so old, their light reached both past and future at once. The quiet exchange reframed the sky as more than mere distance. It became ancient kin, comforting and alive. There was no rush to the stories, no feature of them loud or unkind. Each roll of a giant's voice or shift in their immense silhouettes seemed precisely tuned to calm the listener, inviting every distraction to soften and dissolve. Nestled throughout the hamlet, the timeless landmarks took on prominence in the moonlight. The great Starstone, rising tall and smooth as a wave frozen in time, glowed gently beneath the celestial expanse. Its presence was more than ornamental. It seemed to tether the heavens and Hearthstone Hamlet together like a great outer space bridge. The starlight glisten on its crystalline surface danced with quiet purpose, something no observer could explain, only feel. Those resting close to its base noted the warmth emanating, like a beautiful song escaping from the geology of the land. Time during these gatherings bent and softened like river clay. There were no firm boundaries between minutes or hours, only the shared experience of stars and storytelling. The giants took turns in their quiet ways to offer stories, whether through slow spoken words or the rhythmic movement of fingers across soft earth. Above it all, the constellations played their part, aligning themselves as if leaning in to hear. The grandest of constellations revealed themselves with majesty and poise. The giant's belt hung low, its 3 stars luminous and steady as if leading the way for all watching below. The twins of Hearthtruss burned brighter than usual, as though very much awake in their role, each twin a vibrant promise of light across an eternal dark. The Riverstone Trail, a sprawling nebula often mistaken for a distant galaxy, twinkled lightly overhead, its tranquil hues a canvas of calm. It was not merely the grandness of space that captured attention. There was also equal reverence for the nearby and the finite. A moth fluttered softly past, carrying a pattern across its wings, resembling a miniature spiraled star cluster. The lichens glowing fondly by the feet of giants seemed an echo of the beautiful lights above. Everything in Hearthstone Hamlet, large and small, seemed intertwined in perpetual balance. The peak calmness of the night felt tethered to these harmonies. Later into the gathering, A quiet ceremony unfolded as one of the oldest giants placed a collection of soft scatterstones into a shallow circle, a tradition spawned to honour their ancestors. These stones, smoothed by eons of river care, carried symbols of strength, patience, and compassion. It was said that these ceremonies radiated unseen comfort across the hamlet, while bestowing peace upon future moons. Throughout the night, the soft coo and twist of wind currents in the high branches created an intimate nest of soundscape, weaving effortlessly into the gathering. A sleep-inducing harmony that lulled even the most restless listener towards heaviness and ease. Close beneath their blankets, or curled along the moss-quiet ground, the giants grew even stiller as the depth of the evening reached its cradle-like peak. Now, Hearthstone Hamlet joined in the storytelling, not through words, but through presence. The warm flickers of firefly trails looped slowly above, shining thoughtful reminders that gentle things can still illuminate the darkest of places. The creek's flowing murmur, near the edges of hearing, almost carried an affirmation that time, like water, only moves forward, but need not be hurried. The nights in Hearthstone Hamlet were known to stretch long, yet they kept their visitors unaware of their breadth. The moments blended seamlessly, and the stars seemed at times to pulse with life's purpose, as though signalling to the giants some great truth their wisdom carried. Such was the presence of this place, a meeting of celestial and earthen comfort that spoke directly and quietly to the soul. The passing rhythm of the cosmos continued overhead, an endless motion that seemed to embody the very heartbeat of the universe. Sleepy murmurs from the giants punctuated the stillness, blending with the hushed rustling of wind through the towering trees around Hearthstone Hamlet. Each whispered breath and slow gesture added to the symphony of serenity, creating an atmosphere free of time's demands. The great starstone began to alter in colour, its rich surface catching starlight from new angles as the giants softly turned to rest or rise. It glimmered with pale hues of lavender and silver, casting the ground beneath it in a peaceful glow that seemed not from this universe. High above, the sky deepened, its shade moving further into the inky richness of the night. Contrasting this, the Riverstone Trail Nebula surged slightly brighter, as though aware of its watchers below. Its tranquil hues of soft blue and subdued rose wove across the heavens, creating an illusion of stunning waters flowing into infinity. Some of the younger giants, their gazes wide and curious, watched the sky as if listening for the nebula's story. They lay sprawled across moss-covered ground, their massive hands tracing the air, as though mapping unseen connections between the stars. Stories still intertwined throughout the hamlet, quiet now, but no less real. One tale murmured from an ancient voice described the creation of the lichen stars, a legend that spoke of a time when the earth was still young and the heavens themselves unfinished. It was said that stars had once been scattered carelessly across the void, their light uneven and their patterns chaotic. The lichen, fragile and determined, sent its glowing spores into space, seeding the constellations with purpose and structure. The giants listened and watched as glowing lichen by their feet seemed to pulse rhythmically, perhaps remembering this historic act of celestial kindness. Another tale whispered on the night wind told of a mountain that dreamed it could fly. The mountain, as heavy as earth, longed to see the stars up close, to drift among the rivers of light above. It was only when a flock of eternal firebirds nested within its peak that its dream began to take hold. Their wings, brilliant and aflame, carried pieces of the mountain skyward, stone by stone. Though the mountain never truly left the ground, its spirit learned to soar among the stars through its kindred bond with the birds. Many of the giants smiled in their quiet way, their huge shoulders relaxed from the weight of their own thoughts, as though reminded of their connection to both earth and sky. The ground beneath Hearthstone Hamlet grew softer by the hour, as night stretched onward. The minute coals of small fires scattered throughout the hamlet, casting flickering light that looked to blend seamlessly into the stars above. Shadows of the giants stretched and shifted like living memories, their forms blending into the landscape as if part of it. By now, the air carried a layered stillness, deep yet alive with the murmurs from the world around them. Farther from the central gathering, where the trees grew denser and the moss thickened into soft blankets for the earth, small clusters of wildlife joined the harmony of the night. A family of foxes, their pelts sleek and reflective in the moonlight, paused in their wandering to observe the resting figures of the giants. Above, an owl swept silently through the air, its wings navigating the star-painted canopy with precision. Even the insects seemed to gather a frequency that matched the stillness of the moment, forming a soft, overlapping melody that wove seamlessly into Hearthstone Hamlet's song. The starstone continued its quiet transformations as its glow deepened, now radiating a golden warmth that caressed everything nearby. The giants closest to its base fell into even deeper slumber, their dreams said to fill with visions of endless cosmic landscapes, vast star-dappled fields where gravity loosened its hold. Those still awake shuffled their attention, gazing upon the monument as though watching an old friend recount stories too grand for direct words. Toward the hamlet's edges, where the creek twisted like a silver serpent on its way to unseen destinations, another ritual began to unfold. A small group of giants had gathered there, their immense forms silhouetted by the creek's slight disguise. With deliberate care, they moved stones from the water's edge to form another circle, like the ones used earlier for the scatter stones. These stones were not adorned with symbols, but were instead smooth and quiet, holding only the weight of their earthly history. The giants gently placed them in the centre, one by one, as if acknowledging the quiet strength carried by simple things. When the circle was complete, they retreated a few steps, their gazes turning skyward once more, letting the stars bear witness. The constellations began to shift toward the night's zenith, their positions slowly aligning into patterns, only visible for brief windows of time. This was the moment many had waited for, the emergence of the radiant crown. Unlike other constellations, the radiant crown appeared only in the stillest nights, when the air held no tension, and the world beneath it paused in quiet observation. Its 9 stars formed a near-perfect circle, each point shining with a brilliance that outshone their neighbours. The giants who remained awake turned toward the sight, silent and awed, their immense forms motionless, except for the rising and falling of their breaths. Legends of the radiant crown whispered in the minds of the watchers. How it was not a single constellation, but a union of many stars across vast reaches, their light curving through space and time to meet in perfect symmetry. It was said that gazing upon it granted clarity, a rare gift allowing the giants to glimpse their place among the sprawling universe of existence. Though none spoke of what they saw in those moments, their expressions softened. Their huge hands rested easily against the earth on their knees, as though grounded by understanding. The night deepened further, now a cloak of the deepest blue-black, but Hearthstone Hamlet remained awake in its quiet ways. The luminescent glow of fireflies intensified in small bursts, their trails crossing through pockets of air like fleeting sketches. A pair of giants, their bonds of kinship ancient and strong, rose from their resting places. They walked in measured steps toward the creek, their silhouettes framed by both stars and the waking morning horizon, just beginning to brush the edges of the world. Whispers of dawn started to thread through the gathering, not as an intrusion, but as an inevitability. The older giants stirred first, their eyes reflecting the waning night with a fondness only age could hold. Their low voices rumbled words of thanks to the stars, who had shared their stories for another night. Younger giants, deep in restful dreams, began to sense the changing atmosphere as it gently nudged them toward the waking world. The first light of day touched the starstone, its glow changing once again, this time to the soft hues of dawn roses and cloud greys. For those still watching, this fade from night to day seemed a story in itself, a tale of transitions, of cycles that never broke, but always moved forward with quiet dignity. Hearthstone Hamlet began to stir with slow purpose, the giants rising to meet the day with renewed vigour and a sense of connection that would guide them through all the days to come. The stars above continued their ever-present vigil, watching over the giants as they carried on their ageless traditions and created new ones, living in harmony with both earth and sky. They were intertwined, bound by stories unspoken, yet deeply understood. A bond that could not be broken or forgotten. So it was for Hearthstone Hamlet, a place where one could find rest, reflection, and a reminder of the vastness of existence. A place like no other. The peaceful stillness of Hearthstone Hamlet began to morph into bustling activity once more. The giants who had gathered there slowly stirred from their slumber, their epic forms stretching and rising with the calmness of age-old trees. They emerged into the crisp morning air, pausing to take in the sights and sounds of their home. A cool breeze carried the earthy scents of the surrounding forests and fields, a reminder of the interconnected nature between all living things. Birds began to sing songs as they flitted among branches and flowers. The creek continued its steady flow, its tranquil babbling a constant companion to Hearthstone Hamlet's residents. But above all else, it was the stars that captured the attention of these gentle giants. For in Hearthstone Hamlet, every night was a celebration of the celestial bodies that guided their lives. Each star held a special meaning, a unique story woven into the giants' culture and traditions. And so, as the giants went about their day's tasks, there was always a sense of reverence for the stars above. Their presence served as a reminder to live in harmony with nature and each other, to honor the past while embracing the future. For Hearthstone Hamlet would continue to exist for generations to come. Its legacy passed down through stories and rituals, all tied together by the unbreakable bonds between earth and sky. And as long as the stars continued to shine upon this peaceful place, it would remain a sanctuary for giants and a testament to the beauty of simple, quiet moments. As the day wore on, the giants returned to their daily tasks with renewed vigor and purpose, carrying with them the peace and wisdom gained from another night spent under the watchful gaze of the stars. When dawn began its hushed unveiling, soft and colourless touches of light rose from the rim of the horizon. The stars, now dimming, released their lingering glow back into deep space as birds began to stitch delicate notes into the cooling sky. Hearthstone Hamlet exhaled a collective breath as if offering one final good night to those who had nodded off somewhere within the great gathering.